Kadosh Boker or Masechet Batra Daf Daf Yomi Daf 147a1 says the Gemara. Yeah, we went yesterday. We were speaking about who was the Tana, right? That he came and he said the Tana Rabbanan Shaya Choleu Motel B'Mita. He was in the bed. And they went and they said, and they went and they told him, Domesh Liben. He thought he had a child, and Liben, then he didn't, right? But he doesn't have a child, so or he was Chole B'Mita, and he said, Lemi. So they went and they said, what? I thought that the wife was going to be pregnant, but now he said that the wife was not pregnant, so therefore he's going to give it to somebody else, right? So therefore he comes and he says in such a case, right? So then they found out that really Bemet, he did have a boy, or he did have his wife pregnant. So therefore matanato is going to be matana. So why don't we just say it's going to be, that means it's not going to be a good present in such a case. And matanato matana. So he comes and he says, so leimar b'shomon asya. So why don't we just say it's going to be Rabbi Shimon Asya and not going to be Rabbanan? So he comes and he says, "Afilu tema Rabbanan dome shanet." Here it's a little bit different. Why is it a little bit different? He comes and he says because it's dome, meaning the guy comes and he says, "I thought that if I was going to have it." So the fact that he said that and he expressed that feelings, so therefore, what in such a scenario, even according to the rabbis, they agreed to the Shimon Menasya, right? They come, no, who mishabesh by telephone? Yeah, they come and he says, right, he's going to hold. Right, in such a case. So says the Gemara, Udkarila, my karila. So when they asked the question, what was the question then? Yeah, what does that mean? The one that asked the question. Obviously, you said mefurash, meaning, yesh davar kaze umdena. Umdena zot omeret, ani ba b'moach shelcha. I'm going to come and I'm going to need you to put in your mindset. I'm going to say, listen, if he had a child, he probably would have done this. So to me, mayalo ben as a here, who am I to be furash? Who amar? If I had it, for sure I would have done, but I don't have, but he did have. So in such a case, it's a different halacha. So says the Gemara, I would have thought to say, that he's only just mentioning his tsa'ar. Meaning, right, when he's doing his chalukat nechasav, he's dividing his properties, he remembers that he doesn't have a son to inherit him. So he remembers of that tsar, and therefore it's not coming to give you a reason for the giving it to somebody else. He's just remembering his sorrows. He's remembering his not downfalls, was not basically his sufferings. His he's appeasing himself. He's remembering all these things. So Kamashman comes teach that we don't say that. That really be'emet, even according to Chachamim, this is a gilu dat mefurash. That really be'emet, this is what he wants to do. Okay, very good. Amar Rabbi Zera, says Rabbi Zera, right? Says Rabbi Zera. Amar Rav in the name of Rav. Minayin lematanat shchiv mera shehi minat Torah. Right? He comes and he says this. How do we know the matanat shchiv mera is from the Torah? Yeah. So he comes and he says like this. He says, how do we know matanat shchiv mera is minat Torah? Shneimar, but says in the pasuk, "Vavartem nachalato levito." You're going to be ma'avir the nachala to the daughter. Yeah, you want to give him the Gemara? The one on the bottom. One on the bottom. That one is. Yeah, he says "Vavartem nachalato levito." What does that mean? Vavartem. Yesh lecha ha'avara acheret shi kazo. There is going to be another havara. You know what that havara is? Meaning, when it says "Vavartem nachalato levito," means it sounds like it's extra because it says if a person doesn't have a boy and he dies, so therefore he's going to be ma'avir the nachala to his daughter. So there's going to be another havarat nachala. You know when the havarat nachala is? Matanat shchiv mera. When a person's on a sick bed, right? He's a shchiv mera, and he all of a sudden comes and he says he's going to give this property to this, it's going to be mina Torah, that what? That it goes to that person. It's a havarat nachala. Why? Because it's called the matanat shchiv mera. It's not called the Yerusha. Remember, it's not called an inheritance. It's called a present. And the present of the shchiv mera is going to be midoraita. Okay, Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua says, Me'achad, there's another pasuk. It says, V'imen lo bat, he doesn't have a daughter. They're going to give it to the brothers. When it says untatem, right? Why does it say untatem? Right? It says V'imen lo bat, right? So nachalato le'echav. Well, untatem nachalato le'echav. Just says nachalato le'echav. So he says, Yesh netina acheret. There's another netina. What is shchiv mera? Matanat shchiv mera. It's a netina. You're giving something. It's a present. So this netina, you've got another netina, another giving, which is like this, which is called matanat shchiv mera. Now, says the Gemara, 1 second, right? You've got two different rabbis. Rabbi Zera and Rav Nachman. Rabbi Zera is learning it from the word V'avartem, that there's another ha'avara, there's another passing over of a nachala. And Rav Nachman is learning it from untatem. Why don't they hold of each other? Right? Which is a common question. Why does this one not hold like this one? Why does that one not hold like that one? So it says, Rav Nachman says, "My tamalu amar mevartem." Why didn't he say from vavartem? How mi baile the Rabbi? He needed like Rabbi. The time was willing to write. Rabbi Omer Rabbi says, "Bekulan neemra bahen netina." By all the Yorshim, it always says netina. Right? It's always netina. Kan, here to do with the girl, it's written neemra havara. It's not written untatem nachalato lechav, untatem nachalo la'achei aviv, untatem nachalo le'aviv. It doesn't say untatem. It changed the expression, which is used in the Torah. It changed the language, the terminology. The fact that it changed it and it used havara, en lecha ma'avir nachala mishevet leshevet elabat. The only one which is going to change it from one shevet, meaning that because the girl comes, she inherits the property. When she's married, it goes to the husband. So therefore, if she dies, everything goes to the husband or to her children, which are now going to be from another shevet. So the only one which is going to pass from one shevet to another shevet is going to be the bat. Because her son, right, her boys basically, and her husband, they inherit her. So because of that, that's why it says havara, which means havara means that there's going to be not the normal case of Yerusha. Just like a bat, a daughter. It's havara. Why is it havara? Because the husband or the children, the boys, inherit her, so they're going to be taking it from one shevet to another shevet, meaning if she came from a different shevet from her husband, if she's going to be transferring the properties from one shevet to another shevet. So too, when it says va'avartem, Yerusha, which is going to be not Yerusha, sorry, Matanat Shchivmina, which is not Midine Yerusha, it's also, they learn it from Havartem. There's another Havara, which is like this Havara. What is that? Matanat Shchivmina. Because even if the person is not fitting to inherit at all, he comes and he gives a present, Matanato Matana. Remember, Matanat Shchivmina is a Matana. He can give it to whoever he wants. He could bypass everybody. He could bypass the children, bypass the Bechor, bypass anybody that he wants. Why? Because it's a present. And as long as it's a matana, as long as it's a present, he could always do that. Fine, makes sense. What about Rabbi Zera? Why doesn't Rabbi Zera learn from untatem? Right? So he comes and he says, orche dekrahu. He says it's not extra. It's normal that the pasuk is going to speak that way. Meaning, even though you're right, you could have just said vim en lo bat nachalato lechav. Meaning, if he doesn't have a daughter, the nachala is, you don't have to say give the nachala. You don't have to say untatem nachalato. That's why it was superfluous, right? It was extra. But he says it's normal the pasuk to speak like that. So if it's normal the pasuk, you can't bring a proof that this is the way that it's supposed to be. Okay, fine. Another one, right? We already had two. Now we're gonna have the third, another one. Where do we learn matanat shchimina min haTorah? Okay. Rav Menashe Bar Yirmiyah. Menashe Bar Yirmiyah comes and he says, Mehacha, it's a pasuk. But this now is not anymore from the Torah. The previous two were in the parashiot of Nachalot, right? That's where it was. That was the Mekordin. Here, right, it's going to be Rav Menashe Bar Yirmiyah, Mehacha from here. Vayamim ahem, Hala Chizkiyahu lamut. Chizkiyahu was going to die. Vayavo elav Yeshayahu ben Amotz Hanavi. Comes Yeshayahu ben Amotz Hanavi, Vayom elav, and he told him, Ko amar Hashem, so says Hashem, Sav levetecha, command to your house, Ki metata, velo tichye. You're going to die, and you're not going to live. When is this talking about? You remember? Yeah, Chazak Baruch. When he didn't get married. Yeah, when he didn't get married. This is the time when he went and he said, you're going to die, you're not going to live. And therefore what happened is that he went and he said, right, go away, because I have a Kabbalah, mi bet avi abba, that what? שאפילו אם יש לך חרב חדה מונחת על צווארו של אדם, right, אל תתייאש מן הרחמים. Never, huh? Yeah. But that's this pasuk. This is what we're talking about. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Yeah. So he comes and he says like this. He says, right, fine. Okay. One second. So he comes and he says like this. He says, Rav Menashe Bar Yirmiyah comes and he tells for Yechizkiyahu, right? כל מה שנעשה לך כי מת אתה ולא תחיה בצוואה בעלמא על ידי ציווי בעל פה בלבד. We're talking about through tzivui, right? Without a kinyan. So Rabbi Bar Yechezkel Amar Mehacha, he comes and he says, we learn it from here. V'achitofel ra'a ki lo ne'esta atzato, right? He comes and he says, so basically what happened was, it's mashma that Chizkiyahu could actually come and he could be mechalek the nechasim b'tzava be'alma, which means balpeh. So it means it's not without a kinyan. So this is a proof that this is matanat shchivmena, right? Matanat shchivmena. The next one was Rabbi Bar Yechezkel Amar, another place also. Mehacha v'achitofel ra'a ki lo ne'esta atzato v'yachavo shel hamor v'yakom v'yelech el beto el iro v'yitzav el beto v'yachanek b'tzava be'alma. What happened was that this is when Achitofel saw that it wasn't done as etzah, right? This is again the rebellion against David HaMelech. Yeah, so when he rebelled against David and he went with Shalom, and then he saw that he wasn't listened to, so he went and he killed himself. This is the famous also Gemara Makot, why he actually strangled himself, right? So he says, so it's mashma that he did b'tzava be'alma. He didn't have to write anything down. V'yitzav el beto. V'yitzav el beto mashma. He just came, he just gave over the properties. V'gamarnu. Fine. So Tanu Rabbanam, we learned in a Braita. Shlosha dvarim tziva Achitofel banav. There were three things that Achitofel came and he told his children. Yeah, there's Achitofel coming and telling his children. By the way, I spoke about this on Shavuot. I don't remember how many years ago, but just pay attention. Yeah, he says like this. He says, right, Al tiyu b'machloket. Number one, don't be in a machloket. Why? He didn't get anything. Yeah, he was in the machloket. He didn't gain from being in the machloket. Number two, Al timredu b'malchut beDavid. Never rebel against malchut beDavid, because that's what he did. And at the end, this is what happened to him. Yeah, and number three, and this is why I told you that I spoke about it on Shavuot, Yom Tov shel Atzeret barur ziru chitim. If the Yom Tov of Atzeret of Shavuot is going to be barur, plant wheat. Yeah, plant wheat. If it's going to be a nice day, right? Not a cloudy day. Morzutra Amar, barur balul itmar. When it says barur, it's like balul. Well, what does that mean exactly? If it's going to be murvavim baradim, so siman tov, cloudy. So Amri Nardai came and said, no. They said this in the name of Yaakov, lo barur mamash, velo balul mamash. Ela afilu balul veluach tzifonit, and hashavto zeu barur. Even if it's going to be barul, right? And it's not going to be mamash barur or mamash balul, even if it's going to be balul. But the ruach tzifonit is coming and blowing on it. So that's also called barur. Okay? Fine. So Amale Rabbi Abba Ravashi says Rabbi Abba to Ravashi, Anan ad Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi matninela. We are coming and we are doing it, right, for Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. The Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Motzei Yom Tov Acharon shel Chag, or Motzei Yom Tov Acharon of Chag, Hakol Sofin la'ashan ma'aracha. Everybody's looking towards the fire of the ma'aracha in order to understand. V'nata klapet tzafon, and when we're talking about that the ashan is towards the north, right? Because obviously the southern wind was blowing, so it's blowing towards the north. Anim smechim u'balebatim atzevin. So the anim are happy, but the balebatim are sad. It says why? Because there's going to be a lot of rain, right? Uperot markivin, and then the perot of the balebatim they're going to be markiv because there's going to be so much rain, so it's going to be cheap, right? You have to remember, some people they don't want to sell them cheap, right? They prefer to sell it at a higher price. You understand? Less work for them, less headaches. They want to do those things. Now, takla pedarom. What happens was the opposite. That you had that the ashan was towards the south. That means the northern wind was coming and blowing. Aniim atzevim balebatim smechim. So the aniim are going to be sad. And the balebatim are going to be happy. Why? Shegishme shana muatim, because there's not going to be a lot of rain, and therefore perot mishtamrin. They're going to be the fruits are going to be for a long time, but then they're going to be sold for more expensive. So the aniim are going to be sad. But the rich people are going to be happy, right? Natan klape mizrach. If it's going to be towards the east, that means the western wind is blowing. Everybody's going to be happy. Why? Because that's actually going to be. It's going to be perfect, the perfect midah, as they say. But if it's going to be klape ma'arav, if it's going to be towards the west, which means that the eastern wind is blowing, hakol atzevim, everybody's going to be atzuv, because that means there's going to be batzoret. It's going to be droughts. and therefore it's going to be very expensive. So it's going to be not good, not for the Ashirim and not for the Anim. So these are just different halachot to do with the winds. So says the Gemara, Urminhi, we have a contradiction on that which Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi just said right now. It says why, right? He says like this. He says Mizrachit leolam yafeh, Maravit leolam kashe. The opposite. Ruach Mizrachit is good. The Maravit is bad. Right? Ruach Tzefonit is going to be good for the Chitim, Misha Sheviut Shlish, Vikashe Lezitim, Misha Sheyanitzu. Ruach Duromit is Kashe Lechitim, Misha Sheviut Shlish, Vyafe Lezitim, Misha Sheyanitzu. So what's going on then? So he comes and he says, Ram Rav Yosef, Veitam Mor Zutra, Veitam Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Simanech. What is the siman though? If you want to remember the siman to remember what is good for the Zitim and what is good for the Chita, Shulchan Batzafon, Menorah Badarom. The Shulchan, what do you put on the shulchan? Lechem apani, right? The lechem is made out of what? Out of chita. So therefore, since the shulchan is going to be in the tzafon of the Hechal, so therefore, right, we obviously know that that's how you're going to remember, right, what's good for the chitim, right, which is going to be the what? The ruach tzefonit. Ruach tzefonit yafel lechitim. Then what was the next one? The menorah. How do you light the menorah? With shemen zait, which is zaitim. So therefore, that's going to be the darom. So therefore, the ruach deromit is going to be in, right, in the good for the zaitim. So hay merabe didei, ha merabe didei. The shulchan, right, which is going to be in the tzafon, is actually a siman for ruach hatzefonit, which is growing the chitim, right, and the menorah is going to be a siman for the ruach deromit, which is going to be good for the zaitim. So we just gave a siman to remember. So says the Gemara, La Kashya. It's not a stira to what we just mentioned. It says why? Halan v'halehu. He says the Braita is talking about Bavel. Bavel is much lower and it's much more moist, and therefore you don't need a lot of rain. And therefore, when the Braita said that Ruach Maravit is not good, right? It's because it's going to be too much rain. So Ruach Mizrachit is better. Meaning in Babylonia, yes, exactly. In Babylonia, Halam v'halehu, since we said that what? That it's going to be more moist, so therefore a little bit of rain is too much rain. And therefore, for us, he's saying the exact opposite. We need the Ruach Mizrachit. We do not want the Ruach Maravit. But if it's going to be Ruach Maravit, it's going to be too much rain, and it's not going to be good. So therefore, that's why he said Ruach Maravit is too bad, and the Ruach Mizrachit is good. But for Eretz Yisrael, it's the exact opposite. Since Eretz Yisrael needs much more water, because it's on top of the mountain, and therefore he says that Ruach Maravit is always good for it, because it's going to be a lot of rain. But Ruach Mizrachit is not good, because that means there's not going to be any rains. Okay? Capish until you were clear. Very good. Tanya, we learned on the Braita. Abba Shaul says, Yom Tov Shel Atzeret. When we have Yom Tov Shel Atzeret, Barur, Siman Yafeh Lechol HaShana Kula. It's going to be a good siman for the entire year. Yeah? So if you, just to remind you guys, what I spoke about is that the entire concept, what does it mean here? You know, if it's a cloudy day, not cloudy day, like Ribbono Shalom. Imagine right now I'm going to come outside, I'm going to see on Shavuot, you know what? It's a clear day. Baruch Hashem, we're going to have, well, what's the connection? So there's a simple pshat. The simple pshat is the what? That it's going to be Rosh Hashanah, Perot HaIlan. Not LeIlanot. Rosh Hashanah Ilanot is Tu B'Shvat. Yeah? Perot HaIlan. So therefore it makes sense, right? Shavuot, 100%. But the way that we explained it, Al Pi Drush is that we're not talking about cloudy or not cloudy. We're talking about how's your learning on Shavuot. Is your learning on Shavuot very clear? Or is it a little bit cloudy that, you know, within the coffee, one coffee and the next, you're already dozing off and you're already, not 100% there. So that's the pshat, right? What? 100%. Yeah, it always depends on the person himself, not on anybody else. Yeah? Yeah, it depends. Remember that Bilam and Asha always made things dependent upon other people, right? Avraham Avinu always kept things internally, which means that it depends always on ourselves, not with anybody else. Some people think, you know what? Only if I've got a good chavrut I can learn. If I don't have a good chavrut, I can't learn. Or only if I've got a good. One second. You have to learn for yourself, not because of anybody else. And Hakadosh Baruch Hu comes and he puts it. So Amar Razvid comes and he says, Hayom Kama Dereshata. The first day of the year, Ichamim. Yeah, if it's going to be Cham, put him on mute. Yeah. Hula Shata Chamima. the entire year is going to be hot. V'i karir, it's going to be kar, kula shata karira. The entire year is going to be kar. What do I need to know? Yeah, what am I coming to teach you? So he says, let's filato shel kohen gadol. You see? Kuvman Zainam Bet. Yeah, 147b. לא צריך אותו, אני צריך את הכהן גדול. Yeah, he says, what does that mean? The Kohen Gadol, right? Remember that Kohen Gadol was always the person who was Ohev Shalom, Rodef Shalom, Ohev et Abriot. He was always the person, he was a semel of Ahavat Abriot. Levarech Demo, he said, Be'ahava. He was always, he wasn't, machlokot and this and that. He was always, that's the, Rava comes and he says, yeah, he says, Rava says in the name of Rahman, he says, Matanat Shchimera. He says, what does it mean, Matanat Shchimera? Midrabanan be'almahi. He says, do you know that Matanat Shchimera, right, that is going to be acquired without a kinyan, only with the bur, is the Rabbanan. Why? Shemati taref datu alav. That means according to Shitat Rava comes and he says, we said that there were different psukim from the Torah or from Nevi'im. Now Rava is coming and saying, no, you know what Matanat Shchimera is? Midrabanan. You know why? Imagine right now, the Shchimera comes and he says, give the properties to A, B, and C. And you come and say, I apologize. What? What? No, you can't give it. Why? There's no kinyan, there's no nothing written, there's no nothing. It's going to be titarif dato. He's already on his deathbed. You're going to cause him to suffer until his death, agony and everything else. So therefore, because midrabbanan, they made a special takana that they said in order that he shouldn't go even more crazy, or he shouldn't just completely lose it and die on the spot, whatever he says, we're mekayim. That's matanat shchimera. Why? We want to make sure that he's going to, he's going to rest in peace, as they say. You understand? Huh? There's the Gemara. Umiyam Rav Nachman Hachi. Does Rav Nachman actually say this? The Hamar Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman, Af agav de'amar Shmuel, even though Shmuel says, Hamocher shtar chov lechavero, if somebody's going to sell a shtar chov to your friend, right? V'chazar chalo, and then after he's going to come and he's going to be mochel, it's going to be machul. Fa'afilu yoresh mochel, even if the yoresh is going to be mochel, mod Shmuel shim netano matana shchimera, then yochol mochlo. Iyam bishma doraita. I understand it's going to be doraita. Mishum hachi, because of that, and he's not going to be mochel. But if you're going to tell me now the Rabbanani, that it's going to be the Rabbanan, why can't you be mochel? Yeah, what's the difference? So answers the Gemara, answers the Stira, ena shel Torah, vasau, right? Ke shel Torah. What does that mean? Really, be'emet, according to Shitat Rav Nachman, Matana Shchimera is not from the Torah. It's only Takana Chachamim. But the Chachamim came, they made it with such a strength, like Shel Torah, because of the Chashash of Tiruf Dat, meaning because they suspected that maybe the Shchimera is going to go a little bit there, so they wanted to make sure, they want to make sure that at least he could, pass away easily. You understand? I mean, not even that to go. So that's what they went and they said. Okay. So no, there's a machloket we just said. Yeah, fine. Amar Rava, he says like this. Amar Rava Rav Nachman. Says Rava in the name of Rav Nachman, and he comes and he says like this. Yeah, he says Shchiv Mera She'aman. When you have a Shchiv Mera that says Yadur Ploni bebayit zeh, Yochal Ploni perot dekel zeh, lo amar klum. If he just said, listen, this guy's going to live in the house, or this guy's going to eat the fruits, he didn't say anything. Because ladur, right, living in a house does not mean that you're actually giving it to him, right? You can acquire that. Okay, fine. So but it's nothing, right? So he didn't acquire anything. Ad shiomar, he has to say, tenu bayit zeh leploni v'yadur. Give him this house so that way he can live in it, right? Or tenu dekel zeh leploni v'yadur. Give him the palm tree in order that he should eat for the fruits. No, but if he doesn't, you didn't say give him. You just said this person should eat here. Okay, chazak baruch. You didn't say anything. No, but you didn't say anything. I could say you could eat here, but I didn't say give him to eat. So there's a big difference. You could eat here for sure. You could eat here if they give you to eat. But if you don't give you to eat, they don't give you to eat. So the same thing. It has to be that you're giving. It has to be something that you're saying tenu, right? You have to give. So he says lememra de savar of nachman milta de ita bebari ita beshchivmena. So he says, are you going to tell me now that Rav Nachman holds that something which is going to be in a bari, right? It's going to be in a shchimera. The leita bebari leta beshchimera, right? If it's not going to be in a bari, it's not going to be in a shchimera. The Amar of Rav Nachman says Rav in the name of Rav Nachman. Shchiv Merah, right? Shamar, Kuf Memchet Amud Aleph on the top. Shchiv Merah, that he comes and he says, Tenu alva'ati liploni, halva'ato liploni, right? Ve'afagav deleta bebari. He says, 1 second, there, right? This is something very interesting. Rava comes and he says, and this is why he's asking, because are you going to tell me that anything which is by a bari is by a shchimina, and if it's not by a bari, it's not by a shchimina? He says, what does that mean exactly, right? Because remember, obviously it's not the same case. We're trying to say that a shchimina has special, I don't know about, I don't know if I would use the word power, but it's a special treatment. Yeah, what do you mean special treatment? Mean that, listen, because of the situation, whatever, he's got certain rights that usually do not apply. And with certain languages, even though it doesn't really work, it does work, right? So he comes and he says, Hamar Nachman, says Rabbi Nachman, Ashkim Mirada comes and he says, right, somebody owes him an halva. Somebody owes him $100. And he says, I'll give the halva to this certain person. Halva to leploni. It actually belongs to a certain person. Ve'af al gav delete bebari. And even though it's not going to be niknet, right, in a regular case of a bari, meaning by a regular person that's a bari, it doesn't happen. Right? He can't just come and say, I'll give the halva to this guy, and all of a sudden John Doe is going to get it. It doesn't work. Right? It just doesn't work. So he says, so therefore, what are you talking about now? And it's not by bari. So what was this klal that you said, whatever is going to be in the shchimina is going to be in the bari? So the Gemara says, Ravacha, right, Rav Papa comes and he answers, Hoil v'yoresh yorsha. He says, no. He says here, he could be maknelo da alva by matana shchimina, because since he could be yoresh the malve anyway, so just like he's going to be yoresh, right, just like he's going to be malve al peh overet birusha, milve al peh, meaning if somebody comes and he lent money out orally, without a document, that still goes down in Yerusha. So too here, it's going to be niknet b'matanat shchimina, because they gave that power of the Yerusha. That was the first answer. And the second answer is, Rav Acha bered Ravi Kamar, halva ita bebari. Halva is by a bari, like Ravuna Marav. If the person comes and he says, listen, you know what? Right, this guy owes me $100. Give it to this person. And he's b'mamad shloshtan. And all of them are there, meaning the one that lent out the money, the one that borrowed the money, and the third person that he's giving it to. They're all there. B'mamad shloshtan. All three of them are present. And he comes and he says, the money that I lent, you give it to him. It's going to be okay. Kana. He's koneh. So therefore, you do see in such a case that there was a special takanat chachamim, right? That since again he could be makneh. So I mean, since even by a bari you could be makneh, so too by a shchimina you could also come and you